Hello everyone. The next topic which we will be studying here is about the muscles. So what do you understand by muscles? So muscles, they are the soft tissues that are found in most of the animals as well as humans. The cells of the muscle, they comprise of protein filaments of the actin and the myosin that slide past one another, which produces contraction and changes both the length and shape of the cell. So let's start with the muscle. So we have already discussed this part, that these are the soft tissues that are found in the both the animals as well as the humans. The cells of the muscles, they comprise of the protein filaments of actin and the myosin that slide past one another and produce contraction and changes both the length and the shape of the cell. So the term muscle has been derived from a Latin word that was known as the musculus. So that is known as the musculus, which refers to a little mouse, which is due to the shape of certain muscles or the contraction of the muscles that look like the moving mouse. So this was derived from the Latin word. Now, what are the functions of muscles in case of the humans or in case of the animals? So first of all, it will help in the locomotion part. Locomotion means it will help in the movement from one place to another. So the muscles, they help in the locomotion, maintaining and changing the body's posture. So these muscles also help in maintaining the body's posture. Circulation of blood cells throughout the body is because of the muscles. And the movement of internal organs such as contraction of the heart and the movement of food through the digestive system is via the muscles, and this is through a process of peristalsis. So if I talk about the muscles, then the human muscular system includes more than 600 muscles, which makes up about 40 to 50% of the total body weight. So these muscles are attached to bones, blood vessels, and other internal organs of our body and are mainly composed of skeletal muscles, tissues, tendons, and nerves. So the muscles, if I talk about the human muscular system, the muscles in the human muscular system composed of a kind of elastic tissue. So every movement in our body is the result of muscle contraction and is found in every organ, which includes the blood vessels, heart, and the digestive organs. So in these organs, muscles function by transferring the substances through the body. So there are three types of muscles and they are mainly classified on their movement and structures. Now, what are the three kinds of muscles? So, three kinds of muscles are cardiac, cardiac muscles, skeletal or striated muscles, and smooth muscles. So, these are the three types of muscles. So, if I want to conclude each of these muscles in one line, then if I talk about skeletal muscles, these muscles, they are located beneath the layer of the skin and they are connected to bones and tendons, and they are responsible for creating movement and are under voluntary control. So this is the main definition or main part of the skeletal muscle. Now if I talk about the cardiac muscles, so as the name suggests, cardiac, which means it is found in the heart. It is responsible for contracting and relaxing of the blood around the body. And the cardiac muscles, they are an involuntary muscle. So the cardiac muscles, they are involuntary muscles. Now, if I talk about smooth muscles, then this muscle forms the wall of the organ, glands and blood vessels within the body. It is responsible for expanding and contracting passage of blood and other fluids through the vessels and other organs. So smooth muscles is an involuntary muscle. So the smooth muscle is an involuntary muscle. Now we will be discussing each of these muscles in detail, about their structure, about their definition, and about their functions in the human body. So let's start with the skeletal muscle. So this is how a skeletal muscle, smooth muscle, and cardiac muscle looks like. So skeletal muscles, they are muscles that are attached to the bones and is involved in functioning of different parts of the body. Then smooth muscles, and then the cardiac muscle. So we will be discussing each of these in detail. So first is the skeletal muscle. So skeletal muscle, it is attached to the bone and it is involved in the functioning of different parts of the body. These muscles, they are also called as voluntary muscles, and as they come under the control of the central nervous system in the body. Now, what is the structure of the skeletal muscle? So it is a series of musical fibers which is composed of muscle cells which are long and multinucleated. So as you can see in this diagram, this is the structure of a skeletal muscle, that how a skeletal muscle will look like. So in the previous slide also, when we defined what is skeletal muscle, it was defined that it is attached to the bone and it is involved in different parts of the function of the body. So you can see this is the bone and the skeletal muscle it attached to this. Now there are different parts of the skeletal muscle which are being depicted here. For example, here it is depicted as a tendon, then the layers of the skeletal muscle, there is a muscle fiber, and there are blood vessels which are depicted here. Now the skeletal muscles, they are cylindrical shape with branch cells attached to the bones by an elastic tissue or collagen fibers that is known as the tendons. So it is being displayed here in this figure and are composed of connective tissues. So the end of each skeletal muscle has a tendon which connects the muscle to the bone and connects directly to the collagenous, which is the outer covering of the skeletal muscle. Now there is a group of muscle fibers which is present just below the epimysium. So it is being depicted here, which are collectively called as the fabriциcle. So this is depicted here. So these muscle fibers, they are surrounded by another protective shield formed from the collagen. So it is surrounded or protective by another shield which is called as collagen. And if I talk about this layer, the perimysium layer, which is a shield of connective tissue, and it surrounds the muscle fibers, allows nerve and blood vessels to make their way through the muscle. So this was about the structure of the skeletal muscle. Now, if I talk about the functions of the skeletal muscle, then first of all, it will maintain the body's posture. It regulates the body temperature. It will connect and control the motion of the skeleton. It is also responsible for performing muscular involuntary movements. Next is responsible for body movements such as breathing, extending the arm, typing, writing, etc. It is responsible for the erect posture of the body. And they also protect the internal organs from any injury and also provide support to the delicate organs and tissues. These also support the entry and exit of points of the body. So these are all the important functions of the skeletal muscle. Now if I want to take an example here about the skeletal muscle. For example, if I take an example around the mouth, then the skeletal muscle or these muscles, they reduces the size of the opening of the contraction of the muscle and facilitate the swelling of the food. So this is the example of the around the mouth of these muscles. That is the sphincter muscles. That is the, so I am taking the examples here of the sphincter muscles. If I talk about around the urinary tract, so these muscles control the urination by the contraction of the muscles in the urethra. And around the anus, so these muscles, they reduces the size of the opening of the contraction of the muscle and facilitates the defecation. So this was all about the skeletal muscle. Next I will talk about is the cardiac muscles. So they are found only in the heart and are self-stimulating, which has an intermediate speed of contraction and energy requirement. So this muscle is not the part of the mucoskeletal system. This muscle is not the part of the mucoskeletal system. They are the striated muscles that are responsible for keeping our heart functioning by pumping and circulating the blood throughout the body and performing the muscular involuntary movements. They are involved in the continuous rhythmic contraction and relaxation. So you can see in the particular diagram there is a picture of heart which is being depicted, and then from here there is a magnified view of the cardiac muscles which is being represented here. So the cardiac muscle exists only within the human heart. So what is the structure of cardiac muscles? The cardiac muscle is a specialized form of muscle which is evolved to continuously and repeatedly contract, providing the circulation of blood throughout the body. They have a regular pattern of fibers which is similar to that of the smooth muscles. So we will be discussing the smooth muscles in detail now. So these muscles, they comprise of cylindrical branched fibers and a centrally located nucleus. So in the previous diagram itself, it was being represented that how the cardiac muscle looks like. So it is a cylindrical branched fibers and centrally located nucleus. The T tubules or transverse tubules, they are rich in ions, channel ions, and are found in the arterial muscle cells. So these muscles are striated muscles with cylindrical shaped cells, and it includes the intercalated disc and joins the neighboring fibers. So this was the structure of the cardiac muscle. Now if I talk about the functions of the cardiac muscle, then so first of all, the primary function here of the cardiac muscle is to regulate the functioning of the heart by the relaxation and the contraction of the heart muscles. Other functions of cardiac muscle include the cardiac muscle function as the involuntary muscle. So there is no control of, it is not a voluntary muscle, it is an involuntary muscle. The cardiac muscle is also located in the movement of the locomotion. So it is also involved in the movement of the locomotion. Cardiac muscle work without stopping day and night. They work automatically and make the heart contract and relax so that the heart can circulate the blood to the whole parts of the body. So this is the main and the primary function of the heart, that it transport the blood to all the parts of the body. So if the heart stops, there will be no blood which is being circulated throughout the body, and ultimately the person will die. So the heart, they comprise of a specialized cardiac tissue which consists of pacemaker cells. What do these cells do? These cells contract and expand in response to electric impulses from the nervous system. So if the heart is not able to pump properly, then there is a device which is also known as pacemaker, which is when inserted into the patient. The function here will be, it will help to contract and expand in the electrical pulses from the nervous system, and help the heart to pump properly. Now, the smooth muscles. So these muscles are also involuntary. These muscles are also involuntary, and they are controlled by the autonomous nervous system. These muscles are found almost in all the organ systems such as stomach, bladder, bile ducts, in the eye, and in the sphincter and in the uterus. So where do these muscles found? So these muscles are found in all the organ systems. So these are being represented here. Now the smooth muscle function by stimulating the contractility of the digestive, urinary, reproductive system, blood vessels, and airways. The cells of the smooth muscles are spindle shaped with a single nucleus. So these muscles are activated automatically and do not depend on conscious thought. Now, if I talk about the structure of the smooth muscles of a human muscular system, then they are spindle shaped with a single nucleus. So they are spindle shaped with a single nucleus. So in the previous slides, the structure of the smooth muscles was being depicted. Thickness, if I talk about thickness of the smooth muscles, then it will range between 3 to 10 micron, and its length ranges from 20 to 200 micron, which are shorter compared to the skeletal muscles. So they are shorter as if we want to compare it with the skeletal muscles. So these muscles, they lack the filaments, special protein, actin and myosin, and they produce their own connective tissue. So they will produce their own connective tissue. Now, if I talk about the functions of the smooth muscles, then like all other muscles, smooth muscles are also involved in the contraction and relaxation. But what are the other functions of smooth muscles? It is involved in the sealing of orifices. It produces connective tissue such as collagen and elastin. It transports chyme for the contraction of the intestinal tube. And smooth muscles, they play a role in circulatory system also. How do they play the role? They maintain and control the blood pressure and flow of oxygen throughout the body. So smooth muscles, they are responsible for contracting the irises, raising the small hair on your arms, contracting the sphincter muscles in our body, and in the movement of the fluids through the organs. And it is much more useful for providing consistent and elastic tension. So these are all the important functions of these smooth muscles. Now, besides the three types which we have discussed, there are other classification also, that is the voluntary and the involuntary muscles. So in few of these slides we have discussed that, for example, cardiac muscles are involuntary in nature. So what is the meaning of involuntary muscle and the voluntary muscle? So first we will discuss about is the involuntary muscle. So voluntary muscles, they are long multinucleated cells which are arranged into bundles. So these muscles, they are composed of cylindrical fibers and are usually attached to the bones and the skin. They play an important role in allowing the body to move by contracting and relaxing their action, and are mainly under the control of the central nervous system. So they are under the control of the nervous system. So these include the skeletal muscle. So the examples of voluntary muscle will include the skeletal muscle. And if I talk about the involuntary muscle, then they are branched in case of the cardiac muscles. The actions of the involuntary muscles are mainly controlled by the autonomic nervous system in the body. And these involuntary muscles will include the smooth muscles, which we have already discussed, and the cardiac muscles. So this was all about the muscles, the three classifications which we have discussed: the cardiac, the skeletal, and the smooth muscles, and the other classifications, that is the voluntary and the involuntary muscles, we have also discussed. So this was all about it. These are some of the references.